Okay, now that we've got our subsample that we've pulled from each horizon, we can go ahead and do color and then texture. So we'll start with our Munsell color books. These are full of little chips that have different colors on them that represent what kind of colors you would see in soil. So anything from red to yellow to brown. They even have some dark colors for soils that are saturated with water. So we'll take a little ped of soil, get it moist, like we did in the beginning when we were wetting the soil profile to better see what colors we had. And then try and match it with one of these little color chips in here. And each page is a different hue, which is saying whether it's yellow, brown, or red. And then there's a value and a chroma, and the value is how light or dark that color is, and the chroma is how bright that color is. But 10YR is kind of your classic yellow-brown soil color. So usually start there, and then you can determine whether it's yellower or redder and move to a different page. But you just take the little piece and put it behind the chip.
Well, Ashley, I get a 10YR 3-4.
That's an excellent call. So we have a brown surface horizon that's not really dark, but it's somewhat dark.
What next?
Now we have texture. So we get to get dirty. This is the fun part. So we're going to basically feel how much, first of all, clay is in there. That's the easiest thing to feel in a soil. And then secondly is sand and silt. You can feel it, but it's hard to quantify silt alone. So since they all add up to 100%, the sand, silt, and clay fractions, we deduce silt most of the time. So there's several different methods to figuring this out in the field. And the first is a ribbon method, where you squeeze the soil sample between your thumb and forefinger and see how long of a ribbon breaks off. I'm not as familiar with that method. I prefer the wire method, which is what you're doing now, rolling the soil between your palms to make a wire, a little worm. Then you can pick it up off center and see how it behaves. So I'm getting that it breaks off a little bit. For this to work well, it has to be pretty much the right moisture, which is hard to get, but it just requires rolling it out between your hands. That's something about the size of a pencil, and yeah, that looks pretty good. And then picking it up off center and shaking it a little bit gets it to fall apart for me. So we have different breaks.
So what'd you get, breaks when shaken?
Breaks when shaken.
Yeah.
So we know that we have between 18 and 26% clay in this sample. So we're estimating about 22% clay. So now that we've figured out the percent clay that we can determine how much sand we have. One way to do this is to listen to the soil. So you can hear sand. It's a very gritty sound, so you can hold it up to your ear and squeeze it together and listen for this kind of a snap, crackle, pop kind of sound. And that's the sand grains rubbing against each other. So we definitely have sand in here. And another way is to do what you're doing of getting it really wet and essentially filtering out anything that's not sand. So you get a piece of soil really wet and kind of drain off all that sand or that silt and clay. And what you're left with is the sand grains that are visible. Wow. So we definitely have sand in here. You can feel the grittiness when you push down on your skin. So now we need to estimate percentage. So either we're on the sandy side or the silty side, but we feel quite a bit of grittiness.
Yeah,
so we've got a considerable amount of sand. So basically we're choosing between a sandy clay loam soil texture and a loam. Yeah. Pretty equal in the percentage of sand, silt, and clay that we have. So we're going to call it a loam. The last part we have to do before we can go back and kind of synthesize everything we've seen is look at the moist consistency of the soil, and that's basically how easy or difficult it is to crush a soil ped between your fingers, and this just gives an indication of how hard the soil is. You just take a little piece of the soil and get it wet, try and moisten it, and then try and crush it. It means it crushes really easily between your fingers. Ideally, you have a moist soil profile just after rain, so it'd be moistened throughout, but it wouldn't be overly wet. And the problem with doing it ourselves is that we have a tendency to get it too wet or to not thoroughly get the soil wet enough.
Firm or very firm even. It's
right. I would say firm.
Yeah.
So now we've finished describing everything that we need to do for each and every horizon. We can go back in and look at the bigger picture again and essentially name each horizon, describe the main properties there, and wrap up the whole thing.